move to the panel discussion, I would like to invite the representative from the National CERT of Serbia, Jelica, to start with her presentation.
So hello everyone. First of all, I want to thanks AEC and Macedonia National CERT and of course ACEF for organizing this conference in Ohrid and for inviting us. So more or less, Dragoslav already told you about the activities of the National CERT in Serbia, so I will be short. This is more like a summary of what we have done for the past 2 years. In February 2016, Serbia adopted a law on informational security and established the framework in Serbia. I'm sorry. In January 2017, the department was established, and now we count 4 members. We are planning to extend, but maybe next year. I forgot to do this. Okay. Besides the National CERT, we have other. Okay, now it's good. Besides the National CERT, by law, we have other bodies in cybersecurity in Serbia. First is our competent authority, that is Ministry of Trade, Tourism and Telecommunication, and they established the law on informational security. The other group is independent ICT operators. They have their own certs and they manage their own incidents. In this group include Ministry of Interior, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, intelligence agencies. The other group is government CERT within Office for IT and e-government, and for the banking sector we have the National Bank of Serbia. They have their own SOC and NOC team, so they manage their own incidents as well. So this is some competencies at the National CERT in Serbia. Dragoslav already told you about this yesterday, so I will skip this slide, but they're more or less the same as in every other National CERT. So NCERT is actively coordinate the risk prevention activities at the national level, and that includes gathering and exchange information that is related to informational security risks. Then we have direct cooperation with the competent authority, the Ministry of Trade, Tourism and Telecommunications, with special certs. I will explain later what special certs are in Serbia. Then private and public entities, independent ICT operators, and the government CERT. We notify the responsible parties and the general public, and we do promotion of the adoption and implementation measurements that considering risk management and mitigation, as well as classification of data and incidents. This is how in Serbia scheme of incidents report. You can see that ICT systems of particular importance report incidents to Ministry of Trade, Tourism and Telecommunication, that telecom operators report incidents to us, to the National CERT, and that the financial institutions report incidents to National Bank of Serbia. If the incidents incidents hit the personal data, that should be reported to the Commissioner for Information of Public Importance and Personal Data Protection as well. And if the incidents have some elements of criminal offense like money extortion, that should be reported to the special prosecutor for high-tech crime too. So in September last year, since September last year, we have our own website. We publish their notifications and publications, and we provide early warnings. Through this website, people can report and institutions can report an incidents also with our mail address. As well, we have a special certs registry. Special certs are actually expert teams that handling the incidents, like SOC teams, and now we count 6 of them. National CERT in Serbia is listed at trusted introducer, and we are working toward to become a certificate member. We are not the only team in Serbia that is listed in here. We have academic network in Serbia that is also listed in here. We have CERT of Ministry of Interior. Then we have 2 special CERTs, SHARE CERT, that is non-governmental organization within SHARE Foundation, and Unicom CERT. We established great international cooperation. This year we won first fellowship program award, and we are hoping to become a member in the future. Then with the ITU, cooperation with the ITU in order to improve national CERT's capacity. With ENISA, since last year we have observer status in ENISA about Article 13A. With the Carnegie Mellon University, they held a tabletop exercise for the main cybersecurity stakeholders in Serbia, and they take part in the Digital Summit this year in April. We are hoping to include them more in the future. And with the George C. Marshall, one member of our team was at their I don't know what it was, cyber drill for 3 weeks, I think, in Germany, in Garmisch, and we are hoping that we will be invited in the future more, to participate more in the future. So the National CERT fully applies traffic light protocol during the international incidents informational sharing, and we are considering to implement MISP platform in the future. So we will discuss it later, I think, at the panel. And as all of us have, we have some challenges in the future. New regulatory framework The Ministry of Trade, Tourism and Telecommunication established working group last year. Then we are hoping to consistency with the NIS directive through adopting the new amendments of the new law. Then capacity building, human and technical. Awareness rising program. We are hoping to make a stronger connection with public-private sector partnership. And we would like to we have the other platform for simulation and attacks that we are hoping to use in training center since this year, later this year. So this was my short, very short presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Vujadinovic, for your presentation. The next presentation is actually from us, from MKD CERT. It will be just a short reminder of some of the things that we talked during the conference regarding activities that we are planning. We have already also completed this year and what we're planning for this and for the next year. So just to use this event also as opportunity to inform our constituency about our activities. So I would start. This slide just shows the services. With red are the services that are regarding raising awareness and education and training services that the national CERT in the country provides. Constituents and actually users of these services and this capacity building activities of the national CERT are our constituents, ministries and services of the government, also operators of the critical infrastructure in the country, and other large companies from strategic sectors also in the country. The main objectives regarding awareness and capacity building are stated in the adopted information by the government regarding our set of activities and services. These are the two objectives. The first objective is regarding our constituents. So to continually exchange information, know-how and experience with our constituents, and also establish security best practices and guides and publish them accordingly, as well as to continuously provide education and training for the constituents and for the employees of the center. We do this activity, or we are acting on this activity through organizing exercises, workshops, and trainings. Exercises, just a little reminder about the first national coordination tabletop exercise we organized last May. This year we are announcing the second national coordination exercise on responding to cybersecurity incidents on national level for September this year. Hope to see as much as possible people from different critical sectors, and of course you who are now present in the audience. Trainings. Regarding trainings, last year we did trainings for certified ISO Risk Manager 27005. The response from the participants was for us overwhelming and very positive, and actually proved our opinion that there is a great interest, especially in the government and public sector, for training that also includes the possibility for certification, something that would be beneficial for the individual that is actually attending the training. So we did this for 30 participants, and now we have 25 organizations from the government and public sector with certified, internationally recognized risk managers. As a first step in managing the critical infrastructure and also management of the information systems in the public and the government sector. So we also did another training, more technical, regarding vulnerability assessments. But for this year, we are continuing our activities on trainings, and we are moving one step forward. If we did risk management last year, now this year we are doing the second phase of this training, and that is on actually on risk assessment based on Octave Allegro methodology that will allow those trained people from the critical sectors and from the government and public sector also to be able to do the risk assessment by themselves and to identify what is critical services and systems in their own organizations. We are also doing specialized training, including certification for the ISPs, focusing on ISPs and on ISO 27001 implementers. And again, we will have trainings on vulnerabilities, vulnerability assessment, pen testing, and digital forensics. Regarding our activities on raising awareness among citizens, we are part of the global campaign Stop Think Connect, and we have published some information that are available through this network. We also publish information on our website and our Twitter account. And for this year, what is planned is to publish the cybersecurity guide for citizens. It is planned for October this year. And cybersecurity guide for small and medium enterprises, which we are actually finalizing now and is available for all interested parties and companies if they would like to cooperate with us on better content and maybe revising the content or contributing with some let's say information that would be beneficial for the small and medium enterprises, and this information would be actually based on these companies' experience in dealing with SMEs. We'll also be publishing 6 short videos this year, also educational. So this is the first guide. As I mentioned, it's already prepared. The plan is to publish it and print 5,000 copies and distribute them free of charge through the country, just as a test project to see what would be the comments on this, and to further reassess and realign our activities regarding raising awareness, our future activities. Listed are the topics that are included in the guide. Regarding events, we are announcing for us the first national cyber security competition for November this year. It will be open competition, so during July and June we will publish more information on this. We have support and are cooperating on this with the universities in the country, and the target for this, or focus for this competition, will be young people aged 17 to 25 years. And also, as I previously announced, we have the ITU Europe Region Cyber Drill for 2020. It will be in June next year in Skopje, and I do believe that we will have opportunity to invite also representatives from the country and other teams, not just the national CERT teams. This is the public survey that we did last year. I will not speak more on it. You see the slide. These are the results from the last year. Actually, we finalized the field work for collecting answers to the questionnaire for this year, and again, it should be, the deadline is 14th of June for the second revision of the public survey to be published. There are some interesting information, and the main purpose for doing this is to, again, to reassess what are our activities and to regarding raising awareness, and to focus on those parts that are not so favorable regarding situation in our country. That's it for the presentation. And now, because we have not so much time, and I would like to move to the second part of this session regarding the panel discussion. We have here with us representatives from the national CERTs and also from the European Commission and from the Regional Cooperation Council. I would like to propose to focus and to maybe discuss information sharing as activity, and one of the key topics or important topics regarding regional cooperation between the national CERTs. So I would like to ask all the panelists what would be the benefits for the region from this information sharing, and what types of information can actually be shared or are willing to share these national CERTs. But I think that this information would be interesting also for the audience regarding information sharing within their own sectors or even within their own companies. Would that include knowledge, capacity building, information on threats, risks? So, please.
Okay, can I start? Thank you for opportunity also for this panel. I find in your presentation similar slides as we do in Serbia. We also have some research of citizens' security. Results are similar. We have research last year. And sharing this information, and I think that is crucial for us. Also, activity who provides as the national CERT. Also, I think that is focused for sharing, and because we have similar problems. On the pause of conference, I talked with the guy from bank sectors. They have same problem as we in Serbia. And on the national level, on the international level, this is very good because we know that we cannot solve all problems, but we can work together and solve maybe many of
things. First of all, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and I know that it is the most difficult session since it's after lunch and the second closing day of the conference, but I will try to be short. You all know that our mandate in the Regional Cooperation Council is to foster regional cooperation, and particularly talking about cybersecurity area, we really try to strengthen cooperation among national CERTs, and it includes exchange of information between national CERTs, but also between all other CERTs established in the Western Balkan region. Talking about benefits, I think that they are countless, but I would like just to mention that with sharing of information between each other, we will improve our cyber resilience, and of course we will enable our CSCERT to act more efficiently in terms of energy, human resources, time to respond to cyber incidents, and also in terms of costs. So I would rather say that sharing of information among CSCERT is necessity, not only to think about benefits. Also, I would like to mention that it is more or less, let's say, obligation to share information. The whole idea behind the Western Balkan Digital Agenda is to strengthen cooperation among CSCERTs and to establish these systems for information exchange. I would also like to remind on the NIS directive, which in its Article 9 and 12, also in Annex 1, defines cooperation among CSCERTs and introduce or actually forces information exchange among them. So that would be for the first round.
Thank you. Maybe we can move on with the, or please, we'll see if you some, okay, so.
Okay, I guess we go by line.
One by
So
one.
the
Okay,
we started
yeah,
by
yeah.
line. So afternoon from me, everyone, and thanks to the host, and thank you for participating in such an event. I'd say that sharing actually it's part of human nature, and also if it comes to technology, the technology of the internet was actually that was the purpose in order to exchange information. And search are in line; they're all in line for the same thing. As our colleague was mentioning, we have whichever search that you check in the region, they have the same slides. It's just that the colors maybe are different and some of the numbers, but the slides are the same on everything that they do. So they are on the front line. And if you go on the reverse part of it, the malicious guys from the region, they are sharing information with each other on how to attack, because they find a vulnerability somewhere and then they share it with the other guys to put it over there. So if they are successful for a financial sector, a bank in Macedonia, they have a high percentage they'll be successful for a bank in Albania because they don't have that information. So if this one goes through information sharing, it's crucial. I do agree with with our colleague that it's not it's not optional, but it's mandatory. It's crucial for search to communicate with each other. And as being an IT myself, we see that the technical things have never been a problem on communicating. IT guys, they share information by default. And then the technical thing, because they want to cooperate with each other to adopt and all that part. So this one is a B, and now we're all working on this regional cooperation that to have a faster, a better, and also more structured like them, either via MISP or some other systems, which can be checked on, or with the TLP protocol, so that we all speak the same language, meaning that you understand on the day one, so from the information is sent, you understand what it means. You don't have to go through lines, read, and then understand. That was like most of it, and all that we see also in all the events that we have arranged and we have been with each other. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Oh, I turned it off? Or no?
Yep.
You too.
Okay, sorry. Yes, I must say that I also fully agree with what Radovan from the RCC said. And taking it into the wider perspective, working for the European Union and in the interest of the EU, everything is actually about sharing information and cross-border cooperation. The EU works actually in such a way that there is a subsidiarity principle. So if something can be done on a local level, on a national or even municipal level, then it should be done on that level. But cybersecurity is exactly something that is in cyberspace, crosses borders naturally. So by definition, it's an issue that is actually very prominent in the European politics and arena. So indeed, by definition, cross-border. And indeed, like I presented yesterday, the digital agenda, our policy towards the accession countries that are preparing for accession to the EU is exactly about regional cooperation and in any field. Within the cybersecurity component or the trust and security component, all the activities have a special focus on information sharing, and so it's really a key purpose. And we heard it also during the presentations that came before us today and also yesterday, that communication is key, and exchanging information from my little knowledge in cybersecurity, I do know that also in the EU member states have difficulty communicating between each other, exchanging. There are confidence and confidentiality issues. So that's a common problem. That's something that's also connected to the nature of cooperation and trusting each other. But like we are here today, step by step, we hopefully move forward and start to trust each other more and more and set a strong basis for further cooperation and also reflecting on actually the discussion we ended with before the lunch. I think that would only help countries to actually move forward in a general and all-encompassing manner. So yeah, for now, I'll leave it here.
Thank you. So I would suggest not to. We don't have to go. Whoever would like to say
Okay,
something.
they already said
Yeah, because,
everything
yes,
and Dragoslav.
So this leads me to the next question. Sorry, but let's do this round and see if there are also some questions from the audience. So the next question is connected to this one. When we say information sharing, but what kind of information sharing? Do we share between us knowledge? Do we share experience? Do we share threats, information about threats? And the next question is actually, what do you consider to be some of the obstacles regarding information sharing? Because you always say, yes, we will share information, but what is that information? What is the border that keeps us from doing that? And is it maybe lack of personnel? Because information has to be generated or created. If we do not create our own information, or we do not get actionable information or useful information from outside, how can we contribute to this information sharing activity? Because the CERT community is based on not just receiving information, but also generating valuable, actionable information and sharing it with back to the community. So what do you consider the biggest challenges, let's say, for this process or this activity to move forward? Please, yes.
Should I?
Yeah.
First of all, you mentioned what should we share. I would say everything what you mentioned, information on threats, on incidents. I think that we all Western Balkan economies will benefit of this. Also, sharing of knowledge will enable our next reaction to be not to repeat the same mistakes or to pass through same procedures or which some of our colleagues already had, some situation they had. What could be the biggest challenge? Maybe I think that Mirna already mentioned this is trust between all CERTs in the region, and I would say that we all should work on this, on building trust, and also categorization of information to be shared, to define certain rules which we will all follow, and to also define some sensitive information, to which level of sensitiveness of information we will go, all of us.
Thank you.
I'll add personal. This is as we all are suffering from that part, and it's not only personal of the national certs. It's actually the research personnel that we lack, because we check on the receiving one, but in Western Balkans we lack malware analysts, even programmers who create malware, let's say, or they'll roll back after that. For a lot of reasons, maybe that we have, but they just migrate, and then they're used on developed countries. And maybe the lack of the academic strategies, that they don't, especially on technologies, they don't push that much effort on that part. And then we become consumers on most of the time. So we just get threats that are ready either on open sources or on paid, and then we assume that the other guy has it, because we already have almost the same technologies, and then we get. But other than that, we were constantly sharing, and in all these events, they have done this good part on the trust. So we know people on the other side, and we still go even beyond the protocols, because we have personal communication now, and then we'll go with WhatsApp, phone calls, another, please check this one because something is, I can see some anomalies, and then you check on that part, and the same goes so far. But it's mostly on the receiving part, on sharing something that you got, and you see that maybe this is the same. Maybe they already know, they have taken measures on that part. And I think that if we had much more feeds, let's say personal feeds that we get from the academic part, from not only from university but also colleges, and because we have very smart guys that even they are with high school and they are prodigies on the security part. But we cannot hire them because that's the law. This is the part. But if we can get feeds that they don't have to just come in the company and they get trained over there, and then you wait for their fruits after 3 years. They have to be already good when they come there, so that they continue. You can harvest them straight away. So this was what we see, that one of the biggest concerns that we see so far.
I think that knowledge, capacity building, threats, there is no problem to sharing. The main problem is to sharing information about incidents. We have similar regulation in this area. You see on presentation the slide of the way of incident when appear, and if they have some criminal activity in this incident. In Serbia, there is a prosecutor for high-tech crime, and in that moment, obligation and activity of national cert is stopped by the law, and we only work on that incident if prosecutor says help, call these people, call this organization, etc. This is the main challenge: how share this information. But also, prosecutor and police also have his contacts in according other institutions, and they share information by these lines. We have some actions in last year. Many Balkan countries take part in that. We have some servers on Serbia who is make DDoS attacks, and they guys sold this service. And many companies and many countries include in these police actions.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I could just add that I also would say that, again, like Radovan said, that the ultimate goal is sharing information about the actual incidents, and even though it might be a difficult task given the confidence issues, but what we want ultimately is to mitigate the risks, to stop threats from or attacks from spreading. And in that sense, we have spoken in similar discussions about possibilities. So what and how could also be further developed actually as part of the project that the European Commission is also planning for next year. because it's one of the key goals. So that I would also like to stress that's a real opportunity to work together on within that framework and with whatever platform is eventually chosen to be appropriate and most accessible, easiest to use without having to use too many resources because we know resources are limited. So, yeah.
Just to add to this, it looks to me that the problem with sharing information incidents, is that between the certs is actually the same problem as why constituency or organizations do not or hesitate to report incidents to us by themselves. So again, we come to the issue of trust and building capacity so that the reporting side is, let's say, knows that on the other side they have a trusted partner who is specialized and who can help them, let's say, or support them in a way. Regarding information sharing, there are some international organizations that support this information sharing, and I must add here that these organizations, for example, like FIRST or Trusted Introducer, are not limited only to national certs, but also to security operation centers and private companies, and so they allow into their membership or some kind of communication also with private companies, private certs, sectoral certs, and other organizations. We also have here NISA in Europe with the European CSCERT network. We are not very much, let's say, informed on the way that, for example, the European CSCERT network does the information sharing, but this is something that might be beneficial. The question is, do you think that in order to become member of all these organizations, there are some prerequisites or some standards that must be filled? And do you think that we can, or is it feasible for national certs from the region maybe to work not on information sharing in the region as a final goal, but to work on building the capacities, building the expertise in order to achieve the requirements or fulfill the requirements for becoming members, for example, for FIRST, as was already mentioned, for the Serbian National Cert, and in that way join a much bigger community, and in that way, by default, we will achieve also the regional information sharing as a goal.
Very, very short to respond to that. The project that we aim to launch is exactly about that bigger goal. Not actually the regional cooperation is just the first step in everything we do. You need to start somewhere, and the goal is ultimately to like I said again, with the digital agenda, inclusion in all types of work that EU countries actually are doing so in all the different structures and globally, and with shared values and principles that are all benefiting eventually the citizens to the best extent.
Thank you. Anybody else?
To be part of this international CERT organizations as TF, as FIRST, I think that this is some kind of to get certificate for trust, because they work by the other standards, and if you accredited team, other know that you implement standard in your organization, and they know that information which will be sent to you, your team will be proceed in a good manner, how to say. And to be part of this organization, I think that is important for us, especially for national teams. Also, other teams, private and other government teams, also I think that can be took part in this process.
I do not have anything but to agree that regional cooperation is not our ultimate goal. This is just first step, and of course, if it would be our goal, we will be isolated on some small, I don't know, cloud floating somewhere in a dangerous sky. But of course, our idea is to embark on something what is already proved, which quality is confirmed, and to enjoy, to benefit from a much broader knowledge base.
Okay. The kernel of these international companies is actually information, knowledge, and experience sharing of the search, let's say, that part. If we see it, the application at first, then you need two other members, two other certs. One will be your sponsorship that will show you how to do it, and the other one will be an auditor that will show you how have you done it. And in this whole process, you get to know people from both sides, so you got two connections at the same time. And after that, they increase it a level up, meaning that they have tried to standardize the language that they speak, so everybody speaks the same language, so on the same standard level. They have the same malware analysis, the same system, incident management tool, and so far. And then to connect with each other, so even to go beyond that, after that you start to go beyond that. When you get information, like even when two people meet with each other, then they have people in common, then they share their own experience, so they'll go again by connection over there. So if we go and have, let's say, with Macedonian cert, the Macedonian cert will say, well, we have good experience with Serbian cert. So then we'll go and get introduced to that one and so on, and this is how the spectrum goes on and on. So that was actually the root of that part, the international companies, in order to bring them together.
So any other maybe questions also from the audience? Please bring the mic. No, because it's also being
Recorded.
for the recording, yes.
Okay. I understood and I see that the slides are similar for all of you, for all the certs in the region, and that's great that you get along with each other. I recognize one thing on all of your slides which no one actually speaks about, and that is the public-private partnership. I know I slightly touched the topic yesterday in my presentation, but it would be great to understand, not from each of you, maybe there is no time, but what is your approach on this? Because the topics exist on the slides. In practice, to be honest with you, I haven't seen it really working. My personal experience is with the Macedonian cert. Last year we did something in this matter. For example, I'm taking Romania, where there are a lot of things going around trainings, awareness, where the cert is using the private hand to help in this topic. As well, the colleague from Albania was rightly pointing to the malware analysis, where again I see the opportunity of private-public partnership, because yes, you will never have approval to hire 200 people, but for sure there is always a way to find a company that has great developers that can help in this direction. So that is the question: what is your approach, CERT's approach in this matter?
Okay, I'll start first. It is mentioned. first of all, I think that we need to get a standardized definition about the private-public partnership, because I think in each and every country of us it has a different meaning, and the way it is being used or abused sometimes. So everyone has their own lack of part of it. One other side it is that depends on how, even on approach from the private companies, and their core business is to sell, and it is that either you want to push that part, and maybe that one will lead you to being always dependent on that part. It's like that drug company that it sells you the drug, but it never cures you. But so you keep stable and keep buying the drug. And that's why you try to, some countries and even in organizations, they say that, okay, I'll suffer a bit, but I'll push my resources on the open source or on the academic research to increase to increase the number of professionals that to be developed, and then they can go anywhere. It can be public, can be private, can be NGO, community, doesn't matter, because it will contribute to the community. So this is one approach. You made the question to the security guys, and the security guys are skeptic by default. So they see, always when you ask, they see the dark side first, and then you have to teach them that you need to see the bright side as well. But that is also another approach of that, as they will say that, okay, the private, until now, the private, they are having better opportunities on having resources, budgeting, and technical personnel knowledge, mostly because they had the money, mostly because they were obliged by mother companies or organizations that they had to be member on, or they had to have ISO certificate because they could not compete on the market, so they had to invest in one. So it is a 50-50 chance, and as I say, it is still not standardized, the term PPP. So let's standardize it, and we talk the first. This is like that TLP protocol that we talked about. That one is standardized and know how to talk on that one. What the other one depends. There are rules and regulations that they still have to go to. Maybe there are some procurement rules that it first them need to get changed, then everything else will follow. So it is still an open discussion until we get the full definition about the meaning of the word, and then the procedures that will go back. Thank you.
We have in Serbia, by the law, the definition of special cert. This is private company who deal in some jobs in security. They focus is different, and we start to do some project with these teams. For example, the share cert is by definition oriented by citizens, and can do good some research about, for example, research about cybersecurity, about similar things. We have teams who is technical teams. We have some project with one team to implement MISP platform, because this is an open source platform, but we haven't too much time to learn everything. They also interesting to learn about this platform, and we gathering together and learn together about that. Also, there is also some initiative in Serbia. They will start 3 years, 4 years ago, I think. We call him, this group is Petnica group. They gathering every year in Petnica Research Center. I don't know full name. And this is security guys from different company. This is from government institutions, for private sector. There's guy for banking sector, for energetic sector, for telecommunication. There are also guys from private company, which some is developer company, some company do his primary job is information security. This is in a formal group, and they talking about actual problem and how to solve on the national level. There is many good ideas, and after 4 years, decision of these meetings is very useful for us, for especially for national cert, because we found new view of problems. There is different guys, and it's very interesting to be part of this. Okay.
Thank you. Some other question? Okay, so if we don't have yes, please.
Just to add on the previous question, because I know public-private partnerships are discussed in the EU constantly, and I thought it's not possible that there's nothing, so I just very quickly searched about it. And ENISA actually has this public-private partnerships cooperative models. It's downloadable from the ENISA website. So maybe if the problem is that there is no standardized usage of what public-private partnerships in cybersecurity means, this kind of information might help to find a better path through all the different meanings.
ENISA is by definition a group for EU countries, and we talk with his representatives, and there is some organization problem to be part. And we found some group 13A, as they mentioned in presentation. This is a group who talking about security by the regulators, and this is maybe way for us to open small the door for this.
But what I mean here is very simple, to just because a lot of documents that the EU produces are openly public available, and
Yes, also.
this document, for example, can just be downloaded. So you don't need to be, I mean, of course, and we're all together trying our best to speed up the process of being at least observer within ENISA's workshops. But apart from actually being at certain meetings, you know, these documents could already give a sort of guidance, I hope.
I don't experience to be part of some process. For example, we have 2 days in Ohrid. Many things I learned, and I found very interesting. Also, I was on some TF conference. To be part of some process is good experience. Documents, I think, not enough. This is for starting,
Yeah.
but many countries is switch on the high level.
No, of course, I fully agree with that, but until you're part of a network, you don't need to sit still and do nothing. So, I mean, things go step by step.
Yeah.
That's what I want to say. So.
Thank you. Okay, so if there are no further questions, then I would just like to thank you to all the panelists and to Elica for participating in this session. So now it's time to wrap up this session, but also to close the event. If you allow me just 2 minutes to go through what we have ever actually seen or participated in during these 2 days. During these 2 days at the conference, we talked about cybersecurity, legal frameworks, protection of critical information infrastructure. We also learned about international efforts and projects that are focusing on our Western Balkan region and what is needed to increase resilience of certain critical sectors and their also interdependence and connections. We also had excellent practical case studies and demos for attacks and for developing security operations centers. We also had presentations on the importance and benefits of threats intelligence and how to produce an actionable or useful information. Dear guests, dear colleagues, dear friends, on behalf of the Agency for Electronic Communications and the National Center for Computer Incident Response, NKD CERT, I would like to thank you all for your participation at this event. We hope that you found this conference interesting and beneficial. Thank you all for your participation and for your contribution to the success of this event. We wish you all pleasant time for the rest of your stay here in Ohrid and safe travels back home, and hope to see you all soon. At least we can now announce that the next year we also have the 2020 Cybersecurity Conference and the Cyber Drill, so at least we can meet there and share experience and broaden our network more. So thank you all for your participation. Thank you.
Thank you.